Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello again and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. This is your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Rebecca Lyons. Rebecca is a business intelligence strategist, AI innovator, and women's health tech founder, shaping the future of work and wellness. As the founder of HerSay, she's leading the development of an AI-powered companion app that helps women feel confident, prepared, and heard in medical appointments, especially when navigating invisible or chronic conditions. Her mission is personal, powerful, and timely: to ensure that systems work for people, not the other way around. Rebecca also leads OrgPath, a platform that helps organizations measure and develop soft skills at scale, and Exera, a workforce intelligence system that turns HR data into strategic insights. With over a decade of experience in sales enablement, digital transformation, and leadership across global industries, she brings a rare combination of data-driven expertise, human-centered design to every conversation. Known for her dynamic presence and real-world insights, Rebecca speaks on ethical AI, meaningful leadership, women in tech, and designing systems with empathy. Her journey from launching startups to advocating for women's health and building inclusive, performance-driven teams centers on helping people and organizations cut through the noise, find clarity in complexity. Whether you're discussing the future of work, women's health innovation, or what it truly means to lead with purpose, Rebecca delivers fresh perspective, practical strategy, and authentic energy that resonates with today's change makers, and I'm truly pleased and honored to have her here with me on the podcast today. Rebecca,
hi, John. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm doing very well today.
Wonderful. I'll send it to you so you can send it to your friends.
That would be wonderful.
How do you like? So, Rebecca, let's start off with a personal question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, and what were some of the fundamental influences in your life?
So, I grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo. It's out here in Canada, just west of Toronto. I have lived in other places across the world, but that's where I've grown. When I started my career journey, I was a musician, a singer-songwriter. That started when I was a teenager. I worked so that I could pay for my own lessons, and then I booked gigs across Kitchener-Waterloo and into Toronto because it was a passion that I truly enjoyed and wanted to make a living off of. I was accepted to a program that only accepts 20 students a year to do an independent music production program. Couldn't say no to that opportunity, so I deferred my university acceptance, took it, and realized through that journey that it was probably not something that would be sustainable long-term unless I got signed by a label, which is not the lifestyle I was looking for. So I went ahead and continued with the degree program that I had deferred. I studied industrial organizational psychology and human resource management at the University of Waterloo. Truly enjoyed that experience, wonderful faculty, wonderful school. And when I graduated, I was recruited into sales. I did not go down the path of academia. I did not get into the human resources, so that comes back later. After graduating, I ended up in logistics, also an industry I wasn't expecting to be in. And when I was doing that work in inside sales, I found we had a leaky bucket situation. We were selling, but not maintaining and retaining the clients that we were bringing on board. So identified some of the gaps, spoke to the leadership team across all the departments, and developed the customer onboarding strategy we then rolled out of North America. That was my dip into the world of corporate and strategic leadership. My husband got a job in the Caribbean, so we moved. So I left everything that I had built. We lived on the island for a while, truly enjoyed that. And when we came back, I got a job at a robotics company. So there, a very, very different foray, very different and fast-paced compared to that logistic role that I had had. Started as customer success manager and quickly became the global technical support manager, dispatching people across the world, primarily in Asia Pacific, building out strategy, working with distributors. I went back into logistics when that company called me back and developed a similar program, led enterprise account management, and did a lot of digital transformation. We went from black screen, green print off to 21st century technology. And I was at the forefront of leading our sales enablement tools, including CRM, marketing, system, email management, all of that fun stuff that didn't exist. And it also sparked that entrepreneurial path for me, that interest. So when I started my maternity leave, I needed to do something more. I wanted to make the world a better place for my daughter. I had done a lot of networking at this time because I was trying to explore what other opportunities were out there and came across a group of entrepreneurs. I was really inspired by how cool the thought process and taking these big problems, complex problems, and breaking them down into bite-sized pieces to develop a solution. So all of that was what came to be Exera. Exera began as an AI-driven platform to support human resources with understanding the information that they had at their fingertips, but weren't necessarily looking at. And what it grew into was an AI companion layered on top of that data to decipher what was going on and explain the steps that you could take to perhaps remedy some of the challenges. Throughout that journey, I met the OrgPath founder, Akil Muhammad, who had built out this soft skills development and investment platform. Soft skills are something that are incredibly important, especially in today's world. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence and how it's impacting the workforce. We talk a lot about how some roles that exist today may not exist tomorrow. And so those soft skills are what set you apart from others, and they're very transferable. You may have really good strengths in a certain area that translate very well to others. If you do a little bit of technical competence upskilling, right, you can easily transfer to a different role. As I went down further this path of entrepreneurship, navigating some health challenges, I was inspired to create HerSay as an advocate in your talk. Women have challenges with speaking up in medical situations. People are generally taught to treat our doctors as authority figures. Sometimes we take what they say without question because there's that element of trust, and there's nothing wrong with that until you're not getting the care that you need and deserve. And so I'm trying to help women understand that is a conversation to be had. You're allowed to express your feedback. If something's not working for you, you're allowed to ask for a different solution. I think the further we get in progress there, the better care we'll receive as women and in general as a population.
Do you think that the reluctance for women to speak up about the particular issues they're dealing with is tied directly to this notion that the doctor is the authority figure, or is there something else at work there? I'm very curious about that. Any thoughts on that?
So I don't necessarily know that it's specifically about the doctor being in a position of authority. I think it's more the way that women are raised in our culture, right? People tend to treat our baby girls and our baby boys differently from the time that they're very young. It's been studied that we use very different language as we're raising our children. Women are taught from a young age to conform, to listen, to be quiet, to sit down. And so the expectation there is set from the get-go as being that sort of conform to what you're told rather than speak out. Not in every case, and I think we're making a lot of progress on that. But the more we can empower women to advocate for themselves, the better off we'll be.
Yeah. And of course, when you look at the AI tools that are available right now, you can do a pretty good job. And I'd imagine another year or 2 years is going to be even more so of self-diagnosis,
Absolutely.
which can
Yeah,
be good and bad. It can be good because it's an informed way of looking
yeah,
at your own health. It can be bad if it gets
absolutely.
carried away. Just look at YouTube. There are some wonderful healthcare advisors on YouTube. And there are some that you just know right off the bat, this is on the outer edge. And I'm not sure I want to really listen to this individual. I might consider the idea, but I think you have to find your own level of comfort. And my rule is there's no one in charge
Yeah,
of my healthcare but me,
exactly.
no one else. And everybody, doctors, people in laboratories, they work for me. It's my insurance that's
Absolutely.
paying them. They work for me. And I think that if people took more of that kind of an attitude, and if they're typical,
Yeah,
get a second opinion, get a third opinion, look around, do some research, find out what really is the undercurrent here. So I wish you all the best
thank you.
with her. Let me ask you this. You often say that systems should work for people, not the other way around. How does that philosophy guide your approach to business, product design, and
Yeah, that's a
leadership?
really great question. The way that I've all approached my leadership style, my general working style when I'm not leading people, it's always about designing something that works for the unique needs of the person who's acting on it, right? I have some of my own unique needs. And so when I'm designing systems that work for me, that may look different than something that works well for you, right? There are differences between everybody. And so when we're talking about systems to work for people rather than the other way around, what that means is addressing that uniqueness, human talent, and making sure that when we're developing that, we are keeping that uniqueness in mind to enable. We're going to move forward a lot more cohesively and a lot faster if we're not working around systems that are adding barriers. So not only are we prioritizing clear communication and adaptability and things like that, if a process is not working for people that it's meant to serve, then we fix it. We also tend to think very binarily as humans, right? It's a little bit of a fault of ours. And when we're talking about systems, when we put something together knowing that it's fluid, we'll try this for some time. And if it doesn't work, let's change that. The needs of people change and the needs of the market changes over time. We've seen that during COVID. We see it now with the changes in our economy. Being adaptable and making sure that those systems are always working for the people involved helps us to move forward faster and better.
Yeah. I think leadership is in
Mhm.
for a big change.
Yes.
It's been coming, especially in the world following COVID, where people are not working just for a paycheck anymore. They're
Yes.
looking for values alignment, number one. And they want to be involved in the decision-making processes of the organization. They want to matter. They want their work to matter. And certainly the burgeoning area of AI is overwhelming people. The development is so fast and rapid. It seems like every time I look at the internet,
Yes.
it's changed again. Some new tool is out. Some new way to use the tool is out. Different things like that. So I think the world better be hanging on tight because the implication for leadership is overwhelming. But we'll see where that takes us. I don't know if a lot of people aren't ready for it because I was one of them. Up until a few months ago, I was
Yeah.
suspect of AI, but not anymore. I'm in a full tilt. We'll see how this changes in the future. I think it's going to be a good thing for people. They may not see it now, but I think it's going to provide greater opportunity for people to be truly involved in the future of an organization because everyone is going
Absolutely.
to matter. People are going to matter. Everyone's going to matter. To go to your point, I always say the dumbest thing you ask a child when they're growing up is, what do you want to
Yeah.
be when you grow up? I said, no, 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 no. That's the wrong question. The question should be, what talents do
Yeah.
you want to use? because those talents are transferable. You can, as you have clearly demonstrated in your multi-role career, you've moved from one organization, one different job to another, and you brought all your talents with you and applied them, perhaps a little bit differently here and there, but it's the same thing. I appreciate that very much. Let me ask you this question, because we're going to get into the AI side of the podcast. Let's talk about ethical AI. How do you ensure the tools you're building support human decision making rather than replace it? And why is that distinction so important?
That's a wonderful question. And I think there's a lot of discussion happening around the ethics of AI, as rightfully should be. When we're using AI, I think we see it a little bit more like a support system rather than a replacement. That helps. So think of it like a GPS. If you're driving somewhere new, the GPS doesn't drive the car for you. It gives you a map. It highlights the fastest route. It tells you about traffic. You're still behind the wheel. You still make the decision. Sometimes you know better than the GPS. I know we've probably all been in that situation where it's trying to take us down this route and we know that it's faster to go this other way. AI is no different. It's there to support and it's not there to replace. And where it is doing replacement, we should focus on tasks that we don't want to do as humans. As much as it's fun to have some of the AI digitization of like art and things like that, I really think we need to focus on enhancing some of the boring menial tasks that humans don't care to do. Why not flip that focus and use it as a support system? If we start to use it as a decision-making tool, we get into a little bit of trouble, because knowing the limitations of where we're at right now, knowing that it's generative, it may be giving you information that isn't tried, tested, it's coming up with its best guess of what it should say. GPT has this wonderful voice that is very validating and footprint of the human it's working with. If we really take that to keep the human at the center of the equation, again, in that driver's seat, build for that transparency and that trust, we can really lean into that AI as a tool rather than replacement.
You know, it's so interesting because in a sense, we're traveling on a parallel path. I want to tell you this true story. The last 2 or 3 days, I myself made a breakthrough. An idea started percolating in my head. And I will describe this in terms of constants and variables. I was there when computers were first coming online, when browsers just appeared. Oh my God. You mean we can actually see pictures on our CRTs and click on something? Unbelievable. In those days, computers were the variable where people were the constants. How better can we make human work? How much more effective or efficient can you become by using a computer versus a paper and pencil? This is a basic way of expressing it. In the past 30 years, computers have become ubiquitous. Everybody has one.
Yeah.
An iPhone, a Google phone, whatever. Walk into a room of 100 people and say, who here doesn't have a smartphone? You will have no hands. Everybody has one. So in a sense, the positions have changed. Now, the computers are the constant and the people become the variable. Because now it's how you use your computers. You and I are sitting here today doing a podcast. One of the ways I use my computer is to generate content and podcast and information in, as I like to say, my lane. Okay. Now here's where people have not caught on to this yet. Right now, AI is the variable and people are the constant. But eventually, as the AI tools come online, AI will be the constant and the people will be the variables. How will people use AI? How will they express themselves in AI? So your point is very well taken. In the end, just as computers have become a tool, AI will become a tool, and the difference will be people. My theme this year is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. Over the course of it's like a light going on in my head, is that In the end, people will be able to garner greater meaning from the things that they create and invent and use AI to support that in terms of their efficiency and effectiveness. I'd love to get your reflection on that
Absolutely.
idea.
I think there is a lot to unpack there. To your point on using the tools available to you, that includes many things. AI is one of the newer things that maybe not everybody is using effectively. And I think if we try to frame it more as that companion, you can have a conversation with it. You can ask it for input. You can draft something and then ask its opinion on how you could improve. How can you effectively use this tool in a way that helps to move you forward in your career, personal life, whatever the situation? So if we talk about leadership and how you can use AI as a thought partner, that's a really great use case. There's a lot of leaders that bring uniqueness to their role, and that does not need to be lost because of the rise of AI. AI should enhance that for you. We now have the ability to create AI agents. We can create a version of ChatGPT that acts like us. We can train it on our information. How cool would it be to put together our plan for the year and ask for anything we could do to improve? Ask for market trend we may not be aware of. I'm a big fan of keeping a track on market poll, customer poll, and your workforce polls, your employees. How could you use it to better understand what the market is asking for and make sure that, yes, your vision aligns internally with what you're working on, but it's also capturing what the rest of the world wants to see. So there's so many wonderful applications of using AI. And I think the more you get in there and have some conversations, the more that will be uncovered.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the greatest things it can do for you is help you develop future strategies,
Exactly.
future pathways. Here's a set of problems: ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, Gemini, or Copilot. Here's a set of conditions. Here's where we are. What are the pathways to take us to this spot? Now, more on the strategic planning side. That would be more because you're looking for a specific kind of a thing. But in terms of strategic thinking, you can say to it, what are the hindrances that will get in our way from achieving our results or achieving our goals? What are the things we should be looking for? I've had it do this for me. I'll give it a website. I'll say, go to putting together speaker presentations. I'll say, hey, go take a look at that website. And it comes back and says, got it. I said, okay, give me a presentation proposal based on my work. Because I use ChatGPT. I've uploaded my book, lots of different articles, SRT files from the podcast, all the different kinds of things. And it'll go, here it is. So then I've got to work it, those kinds of things. I was doing a presentation at a workforce conference a few weeks ago in Virginia Beach National Workforce Development Conference. I was talking about getting ready to write a handbook, take a lot of information, squelch it down into a handbook. What I said to them was, and this comes under ethical AI, on the first page of this workbook, I'm going to say, I used AI to create this workbook. Here's how I used it. This is what it did for me. This is what I did. At the end, I went through every word and validated everything that's here because it brings a level of honesty. It says to everybody, just like you use a computer, everybody figures, well, you used AI. Well, why don't I just say, I used AI? This is how I used it. I want to be upfront with you because people go, oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah, I like that. He was honest about that. He didn't try to hide it. Say, oh, yeah, I did this all by myself. No, I think ethical AI is important. I think we have to be upfront with it. I agree. I think that it's something, though, we have to keep our eyes on. I think talents matter. Skills, I think, we'll have to reskill at some point. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see where it all winds up in the end. Come
I
back
think
on that.
everything you said makes so much sense. And being transparent about how the tools are being used and how the data is being captured and stored is so important, especially as we go down this quickly evolving path of innovation. Making sure that when there are people involved, whether they're looking at your workbook or you're using their data to do an analysis, that needs to be upfront and center in the conversation. I believe over the next few years, we will see a bigger push and presence of what the ethics guidebook looks like. And I'm hopeful that we've got some great strategic leaders who are going to shape that so that we're delivering on the innovation while also being mindful of the impact it has.
Right. And I think it may come to when you publish a book, whether independently or working through a publisher, they should demand how you used AI. Be upfront. People love that. They love truth and they love honesty. They love it. And everybody acknowledges it. In fact, what you may do is give an idea to another author that says, you know what? I hadn't thought about using AI to do this kind of stuff on my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me jump into that and take a look at that. So I think there's a blossoming use of it, if you will, and I think it will help everyone along the road the more upfront and ethical they are about the use of AI. Let me ask you this question. You found adventures in both workforce intelligence and women's health. Okay. What connects these seemingly different spaces and how do you see them influencing each other?
So there's many common themes throughout my work, and this goes through my career path into my entrepreneurial journey with the various ventures that I'm managing. And it's always people at the core of what I do, keeping people in mind and making an impact on the people who are involved. So if we're looking at the way we've structured and set up the AI-driven people intelligence, what we're doing is connecting data sources that those teams have access to and layering on artificial intelligence to decipher what's going on and deliver actionable recommendations. Taking that theme and translating over to the women's health app, same concept, different information. If you're able to track your symptoms, keep an eye on your health journey and have the AI tell you, hey, you logged fatigue 29 days this month. This may be something you want to bring up to your doctor. That's a very similar prescriptive analysis to, hey, I took a look at your workforce information and I found that your women are paid 15% less on average than their male counterparts in your engineering department. Might have a pay equity issue here. Here are the steps I recommend you take to look into that. Two different applications of the same frame. The connection in the content itself may be very different. The audience, we're even looking B2B versus B2C. Two very different audiences, but framework very similar.
Right. I absolutely agree. There is a lot of rollover from one application to another, and all you have to do is modify it to fit what your clients are looking for, whether it's a business client or a consumer client. We're getting close to the end here, so I'd like to ask you this question and see where it takes us. Looking ahead, what excites you most about the intersection of tech, health, and human connection, and what role do you hope to play in shaping that future?
Yeah, that's what excites me is how quickly we're able to innovate compared to previous times. We're at the forefront of the tidal wave that's going to be bigger than the dot-com boom. Like, it's going to drastically affect every aspect of our life. I'm very excited about building deeply human systems at scale. How do we keep the human in the driver's seat, especially where it makes sense to do so? Understanding this rapid iteration and this technology can certainly spin up into various areas. For a long time, technologies felt really cold. It's impersonal. It's just that tool. Now we're seeing that companionship. We're working in tandem. So we can build tools that don't just collect information. They actually understand the context and emotion and lived experience surrounding that. If you can imagine a feature where technology helps you feel like you're more supported, that's a very different story. In my role, I see myself as that translator. What's technically possible versus what's emotionally needed? What's the human aspect of what's needed? And to make sure that we scale as we innovate, we want to not lose that human connection. Building tools that restore dignity in the healthcare context, they center on the patient. In the HR context, they center on the employee. Bring clarity to the chaos around us. That connection, I think it's really like the backbone of progress in this AI-driven world that we are already in.
Right. It's going to be different
Yep.
for different people. Everybody's got to find their own way through the tech to the human side of it. Some people, I'm sure, will want to relegate most of what they deal with every day to maybe tech. Let's use that big umbrella, to tech. And some will want to do a minimum amount of tech and hold on to the human side of it more than anything else. And I think there's a lot of people somewhere in between. And I don't think there's going to be a prescription for everyone. People have to decide for themselves. The onus is on each individual to say, this is how I want to engage with tech and have it help me in my daily life, in my daily work. I had a guest on it. I just published his podcast named R.J. Grimshaw, the AI CEO. He was telling me a great story that his wife really wasn't latched onto it. And then he showed her how to use AI to remodel their kitchen. She thinks this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. She absolutely loves it because she can put certain things into the AI system. She can look from every utensil, stoves, refrigerators. She can really visualize now what that might look like and what she really likes. Lighting fixtures, all these different kinds of things. But once it was personalized for her, once she became personally involved in it, she used it to do the thing that she wanted to do most. And so there's a great story about how people have to define it for themselves. It's a wide open future. We don't know. Every day, people are going to make it different. There will be some nefarious people who do bad things with it. We'll have to guard against that. Find those people and prosecute them if at all possible. At the same time, I think a lot of good comes from it. So listen, Rebecca, you've been a great guest. I appreciate your time here this morning on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I can't thank you enough for your time. I wish you and your family great health and a great future.
Thank you very much.
So
I appreciate it.